Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kayla and it's time to crack into a good book. So today's video I thought I would do like a combination of, I think it's called the finish the book tag, and just like generally talk about reading, just like my reading habits and things like that. So I was not actually explicitly tagged to do this, but I saw Angela from Literature Science Alliance do it, and we had been kind of talking, and she's like, oh, it'd be really cool to like see you do this, and like I'd be really interested in hearing your thoughts. And so I was like, okay. And like I definitely have a backlog of book tags that I need to do, so naturally I'm not going to do any of them today. No, but like it's all gonna be fun book tags and everything. It's just like a lot of those take some time to prepare, and like I need to think about my answers. But for this one, it's like pretty straightforward, since I'm just talking about like how do I read and like my general reading tastes and habits and things like that. I continue to be struggling a bit, I guess, with just like finding the desire to film and edit videos. So like I think I've been managing at least once per week, and like ideally I'd like to make it twice per week. So I'm trying to get back into the swing of things, but just with everything going on, it's definitely tough. But so I think what we'll do is go through the tag questions, and then I'll just kind of generally chat about like, how do I read so much? So the first question is, do you keep a list of the books you've read? So yes, I do. Obviously I use Goodreads, and like my Goodreads page, I guess, is linked in the description box. But so like I keep track of what I read there, but I also have like an Excel spreadsheet of all the books that I've read. And previously, I had just done like a Word document, literally just like listing things out, but I kind of felt like I wanted to I wanted to record more information about the books that I read. So this year I've been like keeping track of more details than just like the title and the author. So then the second question is, if you record stats, what do you record? I keep track of the book number, so I can get a sense of like obviously how many books I read each year. And then obviously the title, the author, the number of pages, or if it's an audiobook, the length of that. I've been keeping track of the month I've read them in, the genre, and sometimes like subgenre. So like, generally like with fantasy, if it's urban fantasy, the genre will be fantasy, but then the subgenre is urban fantasy. I've been keeping track of if it's YA or adult, keeping track of buddy reads that I do, which I've actually done a lot more this year, so that's kind of cool. The rating that I give it, and then format. So this is like, I've been doing like paperback, hardcover, audiobook, or ebook, I think. And then like how I obtained it. So did I buy it? Was it a gift? Did I win it at a giveaway, which is a surprisingly large number. And then I've also been keeping track of the books that come in my subscription box for Unplugged Book Box. So I can like, I want to kind of hold myself accountable for actually getting through those books, since I am, paying for a book box each month. And then I also just have like digital, physical, audio, which is kind of redundant, I guess, with format, but whatever. I think I had maybe done digital, physical, audio before. I was like, maybe I should just add it in the format. But anyway, so that's kind of like generally what I've been doing. And then I've got various like graphs to, display that information. So that's kind of been fun this year. Question 3 is, do you give star ratings for books? And if so, what do you score books out of, and how do you come about this score? So yes, I do give star ratings to books, and I go on the, I guess, 0 to 5 scale, but really, I guess it's really 1 to 5 scale. I don't really rate books less than 1, unless you count DNFs, but that's like something completely different. Anyway, so I use half stars, which I know some people are opposed to, but sometimes when I'm reading a book, it's just like, it doesn't really fit into it. This comes up, I think, a lot with like 3.5 star books in particular. Like, I like it more than I like a 3-star book, but it's not quite a 4-star book for me. But I do round up on Goodreads, because Goodreads uses whole stars only, and like, I want to be positive about books and like help the authors out. So generally, I guess in terms of like how I come about these scores, a lot of it is just kind of gut feelings. Like a 1 star for me is like, I really just hated it, and I don't give out that many 1 stars. There was a couple last year that I just like absolutely hated, had so many problems with. So that happens rarely. I don't feel like I give that many 1.5 stars, but that's like somewhere in between like I hated it and it was okay. So yeah, generally I think that doesn't come up as much. 2 stars is it was okay. I, like had some issues with it. This is generally like I was bored in places, and even though some of the ideas were good, just execution wasn't there for me. So 3 stars, like this was fine. Like I may have some issues with it, or maybe like didn't fully connect with it, but generally like 3 stars and above are in my mind like worth reading and worth recommending. 3 stars are generally like on the lower end of that. So this might be like, it might be helpful to pick it up for the library. 3 stars aren't generally books that I would necessarily reread, though it does depend on the book. 3.5 star or above are generally ones that I would most likely reread and tend to want to keep. So 4 stars are generally like I really enjoyed it, and but maybe there was like something that just wasn't quite there for me, that to push it all the way up to the 5-star range for me. And then so 5 stars, obviously, like I loved it. I don't really know how to describe the feeling where you're just like all in, you're just super invested in what you want to, and what you're reading, and like you care about the characters, you feel things. So that's kind of where I'm at with the 5 stars. 4.5 star, I think, is just like there was something not quite there for a 5-star, and so I just like bump it down a little bit. But like in a book that I read recently, The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher, which was a really great horror book, I really liked it, but I thought the ending was a little weak, so that's kind of why it bumped me down from a 5-star to a 4.5 star. But yeah, so a lot of this is just kind of gut feeling, and sometimes I have a hard time figuring out what I do and don't like about books, and like how it's sometimes difficult to figure out how I rate it. So sometimes what I will do is actually like go onto Goodreads and see like what some of my friends have said about it, and I think that kind of helps me work out and process how I feel about the book, and like did I like it a little bit more than that, or not quite as much. I did want to mention that Ola from Ola Magic had created a new rating system, and I'll try to remember to leave that video link down below, but it's Cape Check. I remember talking to her about this on Twitter, and like I think she actually mentions it in the video itself, but like Cape Check kind of reminds us both of like Edna Mode from The Incredibles, where she's like, no capes. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But so this is actually a really cool rating system that she's created, and you'll input various things, and it like gives you obviously like a star rating at the very end, and like I think it's on a scale of 1 to 10, and then that can translate back to 0 or 1 to 5. If I'm remembering that right. But by the time I think I had watched it, I had already like kind of committed to one of my Excel spreadsheets. But I think maybe next year I might try that out. But one thing I am curious is to see like, if you do going through her like really detailed system, if I were to like input things, like I wonder how well that end result would match up with my gut feeling. So I feel like that would just be really interesting to find out. Question 4 is, do you review books? Obviously, yes. I have a booktube channel where, like, clearly you are watching this, and I review books in my monthly, at mid-month and end-of-the-month wrap-ups. And then I've also been posting some reviews on Instagram, though I'm, like, months behind on that. I just really, again, haven't been in the mood to do that. And then fairly recently, I've started writing, like, little mini reviews on Goodreads. Like, I had been writing more in-depth reviews for books that I've received for review and through giveaways, because I feel like, obviously if I receive it for review, I'm going to write an in-depth review for it. But with giveaways as well, like, we're not obligated to write a review, but I feel like that would be nice to do because I'm getting a free book. So, like, I don't know. I feel just like I want to do that anyway. But, so for the books that I just like have read that I've purchased, I've started writing like a couple of sentences to sort of like give, I guess, myself and anyone who follows me or are friends with me some idea of how I felt about that book and why. So sometimes these aren't like super complex. Then question 5 is, where do you put your finished books? So I'm not entirely sure what that means. I guess like physically, where do I put them? I put them on my shelves. So like this is obviously the main bookshelf, and then the other bookshelf that I've been filming a couple of videos in front of lately, my fiance's mom actually made that for us fairly recently, so that's slowly starting to fill up. So like at some point I need to probably go through and do an unhaul, which is sad, but such is life. Question 6 is, how do you pick your next book? So I'm very much a mood reader, so this is you know, I'll just like kind of go over to my TBR stacks and like look through and see how I feel and just kind of see what sort of like synopsis jumps out and grabs me. Usually, I guess when I'm feeling like slumpy, I try to choose a different genre to like change things up a bit and like, you know, get out of a slight reading slump. If I need a comfort read, I will try to go with urban fantasy because we all know that's like my genre of choice. And then I don't know, if I'm in the mood for something lighter, I do have a few romances, or I have like some YA fantasy that maybe like doesn't require my full attention. So recently, you know, with just everything going on, I had been kind of going for these lighter sort of reads that you know, like it wouldn't be the end of the world if I didn't pick up on all these details. I also kind of, I guess, have certain types of books that I like to read based on the season, and I kind of mentioned this at some point. Like I had done 5 books I wanted to read this winter because they, for whatever reason, gave me wintry vibes, and I'd been considering doing that for different seasons, but obviously like I have not been filming those videos, but I like kind of had an idea of some of the books that I wanted to read this spring. Like I wanted to get to The Good Luck Girls, for instance, because it was kind of like a Western setting, and with Westworld starting back up, which like, you know, I have not actually been caught up on the latest season, but I wanted to read that book this spring before watching Westworld because it kind of like gave me similar vibes. So sometimes, you know, it'll be things like that, or like in the summer I like to read books that are set on like the ocean. In the winter I tend to go for things that are like snowy, like murder mystery type things, or things that have like more fairy tale feels to them, I think. Spring and fall are a little more difficult. Like I don't know, fall I guess I would maybe go for more thrillers, but yeah, so it's not perfect, but that's kind of just like a general rambling explanation of how I sometimes choose books. Question 7 is, do you have any other rituals for when you have finished a book? No, I'm not really sure what kind of rituals this is referring to, but I guess like what I will do is I currently stack up my books that I've read that like I haven't reviewed for you guys on the coffee table, which can sometimes get a little ridiculous, and like sometimes it'll block my view of the TV if I'm laying down on the couch, which is like the silliest problem ever. And then once I have reviewed them, I'll put them away, whether, you know, like on the shelf or in my like boxes of books to unhaul. And then after, you know, I haven't been doing this after every single book because sometimes I'm not in the mood to write a review, but I will have been like taking notes in my notebook about like things that I want to bring up while, you know, going through the review on my channel or on Goodreads or whatever. So that's been lately, like every 3 or so books, I'll just like write all of those reviews and then, you know, try to catch up on Goodreads with that. Question 8 is, who do you tag? So I don't know if I'll specifically tag anybody. If anyone feels like you want to do this, feel free to do so. So now I think I just want to generally talk about my reading. If you've watched my channel for any amount of time, you will probably know just how much I read. So I think it was Friday or Saturday, something like that, I finished my 100th book of the year so far. So, you know, I've obviously like finished a couple more since then. So that was certainly an exciting moment. You know, like I've been managing to read a lot this year. I tend to get a lot of comments on my wrap-ups, you know, like, oh my God, this is so impressive how many books you read each month. And like, yes, I agree. I find myself impressed with myself constantly. But anyway, so I thought I would just kind of generally talk about, I think, the strategies that I use to read more, and, you know, maybe that will help you read more if you want to. Like, it's totally fine. Whatever amount you read is great. Any amount of reading is fabulous. The biggest thing, and this is not going to be the most helpful piece of advice, I guess, is I generally get through a lot of books because I can read so quickly. So that is certainly the main thing. But I think speed reading is something that you can practice and get better at. I feel like I've been able to read really quickly for most of my life, and like I've been a huge reader all of my life, so I think maybe just the practice of that has helped me out, so I can, you know, certainly get through books pretty quickly. Reading speed is certainly going to vary from person to person. I don't really know if I have any tips on how to like get better at speed reading. I think there are various things online that you can look at, and I feel like there are courses on speed reading, but I have no idea what those would even be like. But I think just generally like trying to practice it more is probably the best way to do it. In terms of when I read at breakfast, and like granted, a lot of this has been kind of thrown off based on the current situation, but I generally try to read at breakfast and lunch because I do work from home. Like I had worked from home for the most part before all of this happened anyway, because I'm working on my dissertation. Once I'm done working for the day, I will just like read through like late afternoon into the evening, and like sometimes I'll do other things as well, but generally I think just like trying to set aside time for reading is really important, and that would help you get through books quicker, I guess. I think just like trying to read before bed is helpful. I enjoy doing that, and I think it's more relaxing for me. It's like I take a step away from staring at like a computer screen or something, because I do that most of the day for work. But it's a time to just kind of like unwind, and I feel like if that kind of becomes a nightly ritual, that can be helpful for falling asleep and just generally like making it through books. Let's see, another thing, I have recently started listening to more audiobooks. So again, before this whole situation, I have to take the bus to campus for my weekly meetings, and I have discovered, so like generally I don't get car sick, but for some reason on those buses I feel car sick if I try to read. So I've found that I can't do that, but I can listen to audiobooks. So that's been really helpful for me, I think, just getting a little extra reading time in, even though it's not all that much, and it does take me a while to get through audiobooks. That is, like an extra bit of reading that you can do. I do listen to audiobooks on like 2 times speed, and at first it was really weird to like train myself to be able to like listen to it that quickly, I guess, but you do get used to it. So I think that's been also helpful. And then I've been listening to audiobooks when I've just like been cleaning the apartment, so that's something to do while you're cleaning, so like that's entertainment and just extra time to do some reading. So those are kind of like some concrete ideas, and just like generally in terms of my reading, I am able to concentrate really well on reading, so like I can sit down and read for large chunks of time, and I think that certainly helps me get through like a binge read of a book. I guess I kind of have this like obsessive personality where like if I'm into something, like I will sit down and do that something for hours. And like this is particularly bad when it comes to gaming, because like I said, I get really into it, and then like a huge chunk of time I'm playing something. So then like I don't know, I guess that makes it harder for me to just like want to pick up a game and play it for a little bit of time. I apparently can't do that. But anyway, in terms of like a concrete tip, it's hard to try to be like, oh, just find something to help out your concentration, because I don't know. But maybe just like try to figure out, do you like listening to music while you read? Do you like it being silent? Do you like having snacks or drinks or things like that? Like optimize your comfort so you can sit down and binge read if you choose to. And obviously this is not like a one size fits all sort of thing for everybody. Like everyone's going to have different reading styles, and that's totally fine. I think that kind of covers a lot of general reading habits and things that I have. So let me know in the comments if this sort of video is interesting to you, and I guess just generally share your reading habits as well. That would be great. For your question of the day, do you keep track of any sort of stats with your reading? I hope you're having an excellent day and are reading something awesome. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, as that would certainly help me out. But with that, I think I'm going to wrap it up here and see you in the next one.